He was paying close to 9% interest on that account.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Financial Minute. Once again, so glad you're here. If you haven't already, please follow us on Instagram. I'll put the link down below. Also, hit that like button, give it a big grand slam. Today we're going to be talking about 8 things you should
never, ever
spend your money on. I shouldn't say never ever, but you should never invest your hard-earned money in. Of course, you can spend your money on these things when you're living financially free to a point. But if you can't make enough money via dividends, etc. to pay for these commodities, then you shouldn't be buying them, in my opinion. But let's get to it right after this. Well guys, number 1 to make this list is, I would say, non-controversial. Remember, these aren't necessarily things you shouldn't buy, but these are things you shouldn't invest your money in. Maybe you buy the most basic version. For this particular one, a car. Some people buy a lot of car, others buy a little car. You don't need a $50,000 car when you're trying to get out of debt, trying to build up a nest egg for your retirement, trying to get to the point where you are financially free. You do not need a $50,000 car. Cars depreciate very fast. And they are expensive to maintain, expensive to insure, expensive to register. You pay taxes on them. There's really no positive benefit of owning an expensive vehicle. Now, of course, some of you are going to say, well, what about expensive cars that go up in value? Aren't those good investments? Well, yes and no. Mostly no. Unless you know exactly what you're doing, and you do already have a lot of money, because expensive antique cars are investments. And you really need to know what you're getting yourself into. And you have to have that money sitting around to invest. This is not something to build wealth with. You have to store these vehicles properly. You still have to pay taxes on the purchase, etc. So you really got to know what you're doing to even make a dime in the luxury antique car market. So back to the point. Cars are a bad investment. So get by with the least car you can. Number 2 on this list, boats. Boats, even more so than cars, make this list. Unless you have money and you are already financially free and you can afford a boat, in which case, by all means, buy a boat of any size, as long as you can afford that boat and you're living a financially free lifestyle and you have enough money coming in via dividends, etc., money that you're not necessarily working for, then maybe a boat is for you. Otherwise, a boat is a money pit. I have had a boat. I wish I had known some of this stuff growing up. They are expensive. Again, you pay taxes on them to buy them. You pay taxes when you register them. You have to insure them, maintain them, and because they're seasonal in many parts of the world, you have to pay to winterize them, unwinterize them. You have to pay to haul them to where you're going, or dock them, docking fees. The fee list goes through the roof with boats. Boats are very expensive. They are a really cool toy if you are financially free and can afford one. But remember, they're not a good investment. I can't think of a single circumstance where a boat would be a good investment, except maybe for the ultra-rich who rent out their yachts, etc. But even then, my guess is most of the time they're not profitable. So anyways, boats, number 2. What's number 3? Motorhomes, or campers, or RVs. Really anything that you can live in that's on a trailer on wheels. Basically anything you can live in that's on wheels. Except maybe a mobile home. It's not on wheels anymore, it's a house. But anything that's a seasonal, basically any seasonal period, but anything that's a seasonal RV on wheels, avoid them. The depreciation, horrible. The tax you pay a sales tax to purchase them. You have to register them, insure them, inspect them, maintain them, and the depreciation, that's the key. Depreciation it's really not good. And they're not built well for the most part. Now, of course, you're going to say there are some exceptions. There might be some better built campers and RVs than others. I'm not going to argue that. However, they are very, very much so a depreciative, I wouldn't even call them an asset. They're a liability, and they depreciate like really, really quick. So, campers high up on the list. I have family members who have very good or very bad experience with trailers. This trailer, and I will give you an example, was paid $48,000 for. Then they paid 7% sales tax on that, so that's roughly over 50 grand. They had to register that trailer. That was about $600 per year. They had to insure that trailer, another $1,000 per year, and then they had to maintain the trailer. This trailer was brand new and was already breaking on the first trip they used it. Now you say, well, it's still under warranty. They spent many hours trying to get the manufacturer to cover this broken. It was a pretty big break too. The wall came down up in the front of the camper on the first trip home, and it took many hours to get the manufacturer to repair that. They also bought the extended warranty, which said it would not cover it because it was the manufacturer's responsibility. So they paid extra money for that extended warranty, which was a waste of money. They spent an extra $4,000 on that. So now we're up close to 60 grand in the first year of ownership. They owned this camper for 3 years, I think it was approximately. And in 3 years, they used it maybe a dozen times. And when they went to sell that camper, guess how much they got for it? Just around $34,000. They had well over $60,000, approaching $70,000, because they were also paying high interest. Because apparently banks realize that these trailers are high risk for the fact that they depreciate so fast, so the banks charge high interest on these campers.
So he was paying close to 9% interest on that camper.
Stay away from campers. Not good investments. Unless, like we said, you are living a financially free lifestyle and you have money coming in that can afford this camper, stay away from them. I know many people like fancy electronics, the latest and greatest TV. They need that 90-inch plasma, that dates me slightly, 90-inch LCD or OLED or whatever, 4K, 8K TV that costs $20,000, $30,000. Or maybe that's a little extreme. But even a $2,000, $3,000 TV, electronics are expensive and they depreciate really quick. They are liabilities, not assets. They're basically worth nothing once you buy them. They're hard to sell, used. And they break. They don't last. Most of them are made in China. Even the fancy ones are a lot of times made in China. These are not good investments. Once again, good for people who are living a financially free lifestyle. Maybe they want a fancy room with a bunch of electronics, speakers, etc. But not good investments, guys. Stay away from the fancy electronics. Also, stay away from the fancy electronics that go in the cars, too. Modifying cars in general, not a good investment. If you buy a car, which is already not an investment, it's a liability, and then you start throwing money into it, what makes a car depreciate even faster than it already does? Spending more money on it by modifying it. Nobody wants a modified car. Maybe it's a good secondhand purchase if you're looking for that kind of thing. Much better to buy it secondhand because somebody already took the depreciation from the car in the first place, plus they took the depreciation on all the parts they added to it, because a lot of times instead of add value, they detract value from the vehicle. Okay guys, next not investment purchase that some people might say otherwise, big homes, big fancy homes, McMansions especially. Homes are not an asset. Now I know you're going to say, but I know, but they are a liability, because once again, now if you're renting out this home, or you're even renting rooms in the home, then it can be an asset. But it's a liability as long as you live in it. And the bigger the home is, the bigger the liability is. Once again, you have to pay taxes on it. You have to pay yearly taxes on it. You have to maintain it. You have to insure it. You have to, if you add on to it and you spend more money, modifying it. Homes are liabilities, and the bigger your home is, the bigger the liability. So when you're trying to invest your money, invest it not in your home. Maintain your modest home, but you do not need a mansion when you're trying to create financial freedom. Okay guys, item number 6 that you should not invest in. Now this is an item you need, but you do not need more than necessary. Clothing. Clothing it can be very expensive, or it can be very not expensive. It's one of those things that can cost a real lot or a real little. You can go to the Goodwill and pick up an outfit for less than $10, or you can go to Macy's and pick out an outfit that costs, almost $1,000 or more. So clothing, and it's not an investment, obviously. Clothing doesn't really sell unless you know what you're doing. You can sometimes make money. I've made money actually buying and selling used clothing. So that's definitely an option as a little side hustle. And you can actually, pick out some really cool stuff used at yard sales, garage sales, etc. But clothing in general is not an investment. And spending a lot of money on clothing it's a bad investment. Your money can be spent much better, invested elsewhere. Most of the time clothes are worthless by the time you're done using them. And even once you buy them, they're worthless, because a lot of times there's not a market for that item that you bought. It goes out of style. Next item that can be very pricey, shoes. A lot of people have a lot of shoes. Some people have thousands and thousands of dollars worth of shoes in their closet. Shoes can also be pretty affordable. You can buy a decent pair of shoes for less than $50 and use them for years. But buying shoes in excess is not an investment. These are generally worthless after they leave the shopping counter, and will end up worth nothing. So you spend $100 or $500 on a pair of shoes, and in 2 years they're worth maybe $2 or $10 or nothing even. Shoes are not an investment. Steer clear when you're trying to invest your money to grow your wealth. The last one I have here is a little bit more broad. Seasonal toys, and this would include boats, but we already went over boats because boats and campers, RVs, those are very specific seasonal toys you want to avoid. But other seasonal toys like, or single to 4-person watercraft, snowmobiles or ski mobiles, however you want to call it, four-wheelers, those side-by-side vehicles that cost like more than most basic cars cost. Some people spend 30-40 grand on a side-by-side that they can't even register, and drive on the road in most states. Golf carts, what else? Go-karts maybe. Just all these seasonal toys, they cost a lot of money. You have to pay taxes on them. You have to register them in many cases. You have to insure them. You have to trailer them. You have to maintain them. And a lot of people spend money modifying them. These are not investments. Maybe something, like we said, to do when you're later in life and you have some extra money, but these are not investments. They lose money really quickly. Of course, they can be an investment if you buy them used. I know some people flip them. They'll buy them in off season really cheap, and then they'll sell them in season for, for a mint. So there's ways to make money with them, but just buying them and financing them, financing them. People finance snowmobiles. Dude, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't finance a boat. Don't finance a camper. Don't finance really anything that besides a house maybe. Your personal house or an investment property or an investment in general. Steer clear of financing seasonal toys. And with that, guys, that's all I got today. Hope you enjoyed this video. A little bit longer. I've spent money on a lot of these items and learned the hard way that you lose that money. Almost all of it, if not all of it. And I just don't want you guys to make those same mistakes. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, only you can make your financial dreams come true. Don't delay. Get started today. I'll see you all in the next video. Be safe. God bless. Bye.